For the last couple of years, in addition to a keyboard and mouse, I have used a DualShock 4 for my PC controller needs. But another controller recently has caught my attention. It is the Spectra Illuminated Controller for Xbox One. So now we're going to take a closer look. Here we can take a look at the box. As you can see, obviously designed for Xbox One. I like that there's so many windows on the box. You can really view the controller from every angle that way. However, on the back, there's some really condescending panels, and you can tell that the features panel was written by a whole board of old men that don't really know anything about gaming. Noob free is one of the features. Bioluminescent DNA, whatever that means. Just comes off as really condescending and obnoxious. So why don't we just take a look at the controller. First impressions are important, and the Spectra does not make a good first impression straight out of the box. It feels really cheap, and it's made of that clickety-clack plastic that Retrobit uses for their pirate controllers. And that is obviously a huge disappointment for a controller that costs $50. But upon further inspection, you'll find that the sticks and the face buttons are almost identical to the stock Xbox One controller. Fantastic build quality on the face buttons, and on the D-pad especially. D-pads are often overlooked, but this one is great. It gives a lot of feedback and doesn't feel cheap at all. The sticks are unusually high quality with hard rubber. They're very easy to grip, but when they rub against the cheap plastic body, it feels kind of disgusting. Also, this is an Xbox controller, so the control sticks are asymmetrical, which it goes without saying is a whole bunch of bullshit, and I hate it. My only complaints about the buttons, really, are that the triggers don't have enough tension. They press in a little bit too easily. It should be said that they do have more tension than the stock Xbox One controller, but it would be nice to have a little bit more resistance. There is a high quality cable on this controller, which measures 9.5 feet, which should be more than enough if you're using this for PC gaming as I am. It's nice not having to deal with a micro USB anymore with my DualShock 4. And those are my first impressions of this controller. The body feels very cheap, but the buttons have a great build to them. I feel like this centerpiece here is going to be a fingerprint magnet from hell too, but let's look at it once it's plugged into a PC. Now we have this controller plugged in. As you can see, there is a power indicator on the front. That's nice. And it's advertised on the box that the controller glows, and yes, that is true. On the bottom side of the controller are a set of buttons which control the glow functions, a feature which is superficial at best, but it works surprisingly well for a gimmick. So here I'm going to cycle through some of the glow patterns just to show you. As you can see, we've got the center lit up, and it has a sort of a fade in to all of the different colors as the first function. The second one is a flash between colors. And if you hit it a third time, you can cycle through all of the different colors. That is the top button here. The middle button controls brightness. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but it does dim. So we're going to put it at the lowest setting there so that you can see all of the glow features. The bottom button here, which I'm going to cycle through now, actually lights up the grips. And we find out why the body is made of such inferior plastic. It's so that they can shine light through it. If it was made of any harder or higher quality plastic, I doubt that light would shine through it this way. It's a little bit of a counterintuitive trade-off, I think. The light is not entirely necessary, but that is how the controller is advertised. And there's just a metric shit ton of lighting combinations for this thing. So if you want like green handles and a blue center, you got it. If you want pretty much anything you want a fading center that just goes through all of the different colors and just keeps solid on the handles, that's great. You know, whatever you want. I've got a keyboard that does this, and it kind of was one of the reasons I bought this controller, was so that it would match my keyboard, which has a lot of different lights in it. And I have that because I play in the dark, but as you can see, the face buttons here don't actually light up, so there's no real reason to have the lights other than just to look cool. Now, those are all the superficial qualities of this controller, so let's move on to how it plays in-game. I tested this controller on some games that usually work well with the DualShock 4, such as Hatred, Lego Worlds, and Fallout 3. And I also tested it on some games which are pretty spotty with the DualShock 4, like Dark Souls and Metal Slug 3. And I have to say that the controller is actually a whole lot better than a third-party controller has any right to be. It's very sensitive, and the control sticks have very small dead zones, which is nice considering a lot of cheaper controllers have huge dead zones, which is an absolute game-killing flaw in first-person shooters and racing games. The buttons are responsive and give a lot of feedback, and the D-pad is absolutely wonderful. It almost feels like a micro-switch D-pad, which, if you've watched any of my other controller reviews, you know that I love micro-switches. The shoulder buttons actually aren't as big of a problem as I thought they would be. They're very comfortable to hold, but I still do wish there was more resistance, and the bumpers on the shoulders are wonderful. Overall, this controller is absolutely fantastic for a third-party controller, and I do think it's going to be a suitable replacement for my DualShock 4, at least until Sony gets their heads out of their ass and the DualShock 4 works a lot better with more games. I would like a default driver for the DualShock 4 on PC, but, you know, you can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which fills up first. And there you have the Spectra Illuminated Controller for Xbox One. A great controller on PC. If it weren't for the asymmetrical control sticks, I would think that this would be almost perfect. This is probably going to be my main controller for quite some time, or at least until the DualShock 4 picks up some more support. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.